Hi, and welcome to eCHO episode number 67, the eBPF and Cilium office hours. I'm Liz Rice, and today I'm joined by my colleague Bill Mulligan. Hi, Bill.
Hey, how's it going, Liz?
Yeah, good. And we're going to just talk about the amazing week that we had in Detroit at KubeCon, right?
Yeah, definitely. It was awesome.
We did have a really good week, I think. And we had a good week for Cilium, the project. We had a good week on the velodrome as well. That was a bit of fun as well, wasn't it?
Yeah, very torn. That was spectacular. I think the most fun I've had on a bike in a very long time.
It was amazing. So if people don't know what we mean, a velodrome is like an indoor bike circuit. And Bill and I and a couple of other folks actually from kind of the eBPF community, because it was Lewis who works on Cilium and Grant who works on Tracy over at Aqua. And we had a spin around the velodrome at Detroit. I think it was the first time for all of us. It was terrifying, but also incredibly exciting and really good fun. So yeah, we can probably post a link to a video of that or some pictures or something. But we should probably really talk about the important stuff that happened at KubeCon, or the other important stuff, particularly around Cilium, right?
Yeah, definitely.
And fortunately, Bill has just written a blog post, which you'll find on cilium.io under the news and media blog heading, just under here. You can find the blog. And Bill's already done this amazing job of pulling together what was exciting at KubeCon in Detroit around the Cilium, around the world of Cilium. So let's just walk through this and talk about the interesting things. So the first thing, do you want to explain this one?
Yeah, but your screen is not sharing.
Oh, I haven't shared the screen. Yeah, that would be a good idea. There we go.
Yeah.
So,
okay. Yeah.
I should probably just point out, because I was pointing out where the blog is on the Cilium website, but here it is. And here we go.
Yeah. Okay. So number one is, I think, in the first place, because it's the one I'm most excited about. So Cilium is now becoming the default data plane for Azure. So what this means is anybody that's running AKS can now use Cilium as a CNI. And I'm really excited because it means that all three major cloud providers and basically all other major cloud providers now have Cilium as their default CNI. It's, I think, amazing to see that really the community and all the vendors have chosen Cilium as the CNI for Kubernetes. So this is a great announcement.
Yeah, it really has become pretty much the de facto standard, hasn't it? So, and it's really exciting to see how excited the Microsoft folks are about this as well. You know, they joined us in the Cilium updates session, which we'll come to later. And Chandan did a great, discussion of why they wanted to do this and how they've done it. So yeah, really good to have the Azure folks on board alongside, Google and AWS, who are also using Cilium. So fantastic to see.
Definitely. And so in case you missed the links, there's a blog about it, and Microsoft also already has docs too. And I know that our colleague Nico is actually working on a tutorial too of how to do it in like kind of the different modes that you can do it. So if you're looking to get started, I'd highly recommend that. I think it's coming out next week.
Fantastic. And then the other big piece of Cilium news was this about Grafana and Cilium.
Yeah, I think this was quite cool too. I think it's interesting from a perspective of Cilium is really working at the eBPF layer, and with that, it's able to kind of collect all the data in the kernel. And the big question is, okay, we have all this data, what do we do with it? And I think a lot of people see Grafana as a standard to visualize data about your infrastructure. So integrating the awesome data that you collect from Cilium into Grafana for visualization, I think is almost seems like a no-brainer. It's like, why didn't this happen earlier? But it's amazing that it's happening now.
And if you want to see this in action, first of all, there's a repo with a walkthrough so that you can try it out for yourself. It's got like a demo application that you can run under Kind and see all these amazing metric graphs and distributed tracing visualizations appearing. It's really good. And next week in eCHO 68. I'm walking through that with Anna, who's been working on that integration. So yeah, I think it's really exciting. I love things that bring things sort of visually to life, and this really does.
Yeah, and fun fact about that blog post, I think it was actually written by Dan, who's our CEO. So it's kind of funny that the CEO is so excited that he's actually the one writing the blog post about it too.
Great point. And our other, here's a picture of our other co-founder, Thomas, actually pushing the button on the pull request to apply for graduation, which is super exciting.
Yeah, it's great. I think we really have seen the community kind of coalesce around Cilium as a standard CNI for Kubernetes. And now we're taking the last step in the CNCF pathway to go from incubation to graduation. If you haven't yet, go check out the pull request, add like the thumbs up, the rocket ship emoji, the heart. I think we already have like a few hundred of those. So it's great to see the community already providing support for that. I'm looking forward towards, I guess, moving Cilium along the graduation process and hopefully targeting to graduate sometime next year.
Yeah, and I think, there's a couple of I's to dot and T's to cross to get Cilium completely in shape for graduation. And the main thing is the security audit. We had a kickoff meeting about that with the team who are doing the audit earlier this week. So that is in progress. Hooray. And then there were lots and lots of talks about Cilium. Any of these particularly that you want to highlight? I don't think we'll have time to talk about.
Yeah, it's tough to say. I think the one that a lot of people liked was Daniel's talk about getting to 100 gigabits per second in the cluster with Cilium. I know Liz is going to be talking about some of the things that work that's happening in Cilium to enable that in the updates. Yeah, I think that was my favorite.
Yeah, that was certainly one of the talks that people were really, raving about afterwards. I think it was really, really popular. I think another one that affects us, although isn't on this list because it's not really directly about Cilium, but it was really interesting to see how much interest there is in the gateway API. And the reason why I think that's exciting is because that's something that Cilium is going to support. We actually already have a pull request. I'm going to refer to that shortly. But yeah, it's really exciting to see so many people coming together behind Cilium, behind the gateway API that we're supporting in Service Mesh. There's all sorts of really great kind of coalescence in this sort of standard behavior.
Yeah, definitely. I felt like after Daniel's talk, there was like the Daniel fan club, and after the Gateway API talk, there's also a Gateway API fan club. So definitely two things to watch.
And then there was the project meeting, and I think for both Bill and myself and other folks in the Cilium team, we really didn't know how it was going to work out. We thought we might turn up and there would be nobody there, but actually we had a pretty steady stream of people. Dozens of people came along and brought their PR requests, or they said, I'm interested in getting involved. Right? I mean, it was impressive.
Yeah, it was awesome. I think Liz and I were both hoping that we maybe get a little bit of work done because there's some project stuff that we thought we could, be in a room and talk about as part of the project meeting. But it was packed. It was a full 4 hours. I really enjoyed all the time interacting with all the different people in different parts of the community. Actually, in this picture, you can see I'm actually giving my first talk ever about Cilium. So that was live on the spot. Didn't know I was going to do that. But it was awesome to kind of like walk through the whole project with a bunch of people that are new to it and are excited and wanted to learn more. So it's a good learning experience for me too.
It was really great. And I know people like Joe, who you can see here talking to someone who's hidden behind the whiteboard. Joe had mentioned, and Daniel had mentioned, I think this could be Daniel. I'm not entirely sure. Back of his head, but anyway, they were really excited to meet people. They're long-time maintainers on eBPF and Cilium, and they were really excited that people wanted to come and chat about the project. So that's our first in-person project meeting. I don't think it will be the last. I'm sure we will be doing at least this, if not bigger and better things at future KubeCons.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and then okay, so I like this thought that you've put together here about the kickoff of the ecosystem around Cilium. Do you want to explain what you meant about that a bit?
Yeah, definitely. So I think if we go back, I don't know, like 5 or 6 years ago, we kind of see there was like the orchestration wars where you had Kubernetes, you had Mesos, you had Nomad, and it's like which one will win? And then Kubernetes ultimately ended kind of being the standard that everybody was relying on. And once there's a standard, it's easy to extend and build on top of that standard. So you see kind of the explosion of projects around Kubernetes kind of after it became the standard. And I think we're just on the cusp of that happening for Cilium too. Now with Microsoft coming in saying Cilium is the standard CNI for every single Kubernetes ecosystem, this is the way that people are going to do networking and connectivity. And so once you have a standard around networking and connectivity, you're able to do a lot of exciting things through that. So one example is the Grafana partnership. If this is the way that everybody's collecting information from their network and their infrastructure, well then, okay, we need a way to visualize it. Grafana is a great integration. And so I think what we're going to see kind of like going forwards from this is a lot more people, projects, systems that are plugging into Cilium to gain access to the power that it has. And I'm excited to see kind of that whole ecosystem grow around Cilium and make it an even better project than it could be by itself.
Wonderful. And of course, we had some great swag, little bees. Those bees are so cute. So yeah, nice picture.
Definitely. And I did steal some from the conference, and I finally have like a stash of Cilium stickers. So if you ever meet me in person, I do have some EBs and I do have some stickers. So yeah.
Oh, and that was another interesting snippet. We heard that the CNCF swag store had sold out of Cilium t-shirts. So yeah.
It was so popular. You guys liked it so much that it's just all gone. So it should be in stock actually probably today. Yeah, so if you're looking for Cilium stickers, Cilium t-shirts, go to the CNCF swag store and you can get some.
So we mentioned earlier the updates, the project update session. So this was the session where Chandan from Microsoft announced the Azure integration. We had Purvi from Google talking about Google using Cilium and eBPF in GCP. We had Richie from Grafana talking about that integration as well. And then we had Thomas talking about what's next. So I'm going to attempt to channel my inner Thomas and talk a little bit about, what's upcoming features in Cilium. So, we reiterated this point that everybody is now using Cilium as their networking and security layer, which is fantastic news. 1.13 release is coming up. We're hoping to get this out by the end of the year, and there's lots of very cool things coming in this, which we'll step through. I think all of these things have their own slide. So yeah, Gateway API. So I mentioned this before, the excitement around the Gateway API as a standardized CRD, a standardized pattern for getting your ingress traffic into your cluster. And the Cilium support for this, there is a pull request already. There's work underway. Last time I looked at it a couple of days ago, there was sufficient there that you should be able to take it for a spin. It wasn't merged when I last looked, but it was, getting very close. So, and it's kind of how you would expect. We're going to just define a Cilium class gateway. This is a standard gateway API definition. And we're defining a listener that, in this example, it's HTTP listener on port 80. And we also have a separate CRD for the HTTP routes or routes, depending on how you want to pronounce that. And that tells you how to take the ingress traffic, and you can have the reason for splitting this out is so that you can have different namespaces, different teams looking after the backend traffic for different services. They don't, unlike Kubernetes ingress, where everything is all defined in a single resource, separates out the routes or routes from the gateway definition. So that's well underway. There's also some other pretty cool layer 7 features. This is sort of almost service mesh functionality in that it's about load balancing gRPC requests. Essentially, just if you have a service that's annotated to with these annotations that you can see here, load balancer protocol being gRPC and the load balancing mode. I'm not sure there are any other modes supported yet, but this is certainly one of them, this weighted least request algorithm for load balancing gRPC requests across these different the different backends that are providing your service, but keeping any given gRPC connection connected to whatever individual pod that it's connected to. But what's even more cool about this is that with a single additional annotation, making it a global service, you can use cluster mesh to load balance your gRPC traffic across multiple backends in multiple clusters, which is very nice. Then, of course, there is the next-gen mutual authentication that we have been talking about this for a few months. You can see the blog post back in May that Thomas wrote. And the idea of this is to use a third-party identity manager, something like Spiffy or Cert Manager, to provide application layer identities that we pass into the kernel using Cilium, using eBPF. But then, and so we do the authentication part using those layer 7 identities, but do the encryption part using IPsec or WireGuard within the kernel. So this is going to provide that MTLS functionality that a lot of people do want to see in service mesh, but in a really, really efficient way. So setting that up is going to look something like this, just marking that or using a network policy to mark the particular traffic, either ingress or egress, requires authentication, and setting up Spiffy rules to match Spiffy identities to Cilium identities. So you can see the progress coming along on that. There's an issue tracking that at the moment. If you want to get involved in that discussion, then please, by all means, jump in and add your comments into that issue. Big TCP support. So this is the thing that Daniel was talking about in his very popular talk about 100 gigabit connection on a single connection or socket. So I love that fast. Is this another one of Vadim's images here?
I don't actually know where it comes from, but it looks like it might be.
It does, doesn't it? It's very cute anyway. And then virtual Ethernet replacement. So this is allowing, if you see diagrams of how container networking works, and I've shown this a few times when I've spoken about the benefits of eBPF for Kubernetes networking. So in between the network stack on the host and the network stack inside a pod, there's a virtual Ethernet connection. And what this VET replacement feature is about is bypassing even that virtual Ethernet connection. So creating an even shorter path from a container to the sort of outbound networking stack. So yeah, even higher performance than we're already seeing. We're virtually going to get container networking as fast as host networking. So that's going to be amazing. A few screenshots showing the kind of things that we can achieve with Grafana dashboards and Hubble data. Check out next week's eCHO episode for a walkthrough of how how you can see these dashboards for yourself with your own applications. And I think that's it. This is the slide that Thomas showed just before he pressed the button on that pull request. So yeah, that was an exciting moment. How long? We have a Cilium survey open. How long is that going to be open for, Bill?
Probably 2 more weeks. Next week we're going to be in Punta Cana, so I'm not going to be doing a ton of work next week. So there's no point to close it next week. So probably the week after. So if you're using Cilium and you haven't filled out the survey, go fill it out. It's going to help us determine how the project is being used and where the project should go next, so we can make it better for all of you.
Wonderful. I'm also going to suggest that if you want, to catch up with that project update session, see how Purvi and Chandan and Richie and Thomas and Bill, because Bill also presented a section on contributing to the community. So when that comes out on video, do catch up with that and see how, all these different partners, different companies, different organizations are getting really excited about being part of the Cilium community. And by watching this, you are also part of the Cilium community. So we're really glad to have you, have you as part of our team. Yeah. So anything else that you would, say about KubeCon? Any last thoughts about?
I don't think so. It was awesome to see everybody in the community again. I guess one last note is the CFP for KubeCon Amsterdam, which is next spring, is closing on the 18th. If you need any help writing a CFP around Cilium or any other topic, actually, I'd be happy to do that. Please just reach out to me either on Twitter, if it's still around by then, or the Cilium Slack. This should be around. Yeah.
Brilliant. All right. I think with that, this will be a short but sweet episode of the eBPF and Cilium office hours. Because we're pre-recording it, we obviously haven't been able to take any questions live, but as always, please feel free to comment on the YouTube or in Slack. We do have an eCHO news channel that is available if you want to talk about anything related to eCHO. And of course, if you have ideas for episodes, if you have a project that you would like to bring and talk about on an episode of eCHO, then raise an issue in the eCHO GitHub repo, and we'd be very happy to take a look at that. I think that's pretty much it, don't you?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay. We'll see you again soon. Thank you for watching. Bye.
Thanks. Bye.